This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Thank you, but we don't deserve the applause this week. After an otherworldly performance last week, we were rather pedestrian this week, but we're going to correct that, and we have a great show, including John Bradshaw Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate, King Egbelu, the inventor of words, Mike Friday, the three-time Olympic sevens coach, and George Hook, the Irish rugby legend, and they'll be addressing what's on the slate. Gentlemen, we came crashing back to earth after our stupendous week last week with a just over 500 this week, but the beauty of it is we get to do it all again today in this show.
Did you smoke a joint before this show? Are you asleep? Good God almighty, no wonder nobody watches this. That is the worst intro ever.
Dude.
We suck, we're not very good.
Why don't we just skip right ahead to our recurring segment, What Caught Your Eye? What caught your eye, Mike?
What caught my eye? Apart from the fact that New England put out a B team, which caught my eye in a bad way, I have to have words with Jed about that. That's just poor behaviour. On a rugby side, the Premiership is getting proper physical. Proper physicality this week in some big games. The Friday night Sale-Bristol game was a humdinger, and then Northampton-Sarries was a belter, and then Bath-Leicester was just a humdinger. Yeah, proper physical rugby as we get to the business end of the season in the Premiership.
Did the Saints damage themselves going into the Champions Cup final?
They took some collateral damage for sure. The word on the street may be that there could be some boys back, which could make a big difference going into that Champions Cup weekend.
John, what caught your eye?
Kudos to the Saints. I mean, that is impressive. They got a championship match coming up this next week. They've got Sarries, and they played a hell of a game. Took some collateral damage, but that's how you what you do for your fans. That's building a huge fan base. It's one of the reasons the stands are so full over there. To New England, what the hell? I mean, Matt, you like a little snowflake like you are the one that's always like, oh, they can't play on Monday or Tuesday because they're pro athletes. Like the NFL doesn't play on Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday every other freaking night. And then they have a game on 7 days rest and they put a B team out there. Absolutely kills your fan base.
Number one, what you're depicting me as is categorically and unequivocally incorrect. I don't mind if they play a Monday night game. I don't want them playing.
You're like, oh, they're poor guys.
No. I don't want them playing a Friday night
professional athletes.
You're close. You're very close. You're very close. I'm saying I don't want to see them play a Monday night game after they played a Thursday game the week before and then have a Wednesday game ahead of them. I don't want them playing 3 games in 8 days. That's my point.
And then the game was shot horribly, by the way. I mean, that was, I want to tell you something. That Major League Rugby game, I thought they had reached the lowest level you could possibly reach.
You're talking the Anthem Old Glory game, right?
It was the worst shot game I've ever seen in sports on any level of any kind.
They shot the empty stadium.
They shot the empty stadium the whole game. If you're turning that on your TV, like, I'm not watching that. If your sponsors turn on, I'm not going to sponsor that. It's unbelievable. The rugby has gotten better with Major League Rugby, but the production of these shows, it's gotten worse over 8 years, not better.
They ought to go out and get those COVID fans. Remember when the MLB was filling the stands with the fake fans with the blow-up?
That's right.
Those have to be someplace. Why don't they just go rent those and put them throughout the stadium?
That's actually not a bad idea.
And just blur it. Just blur it out.
And make them do stuff, like make them wave. Yeah,
they move in the
waving all the time. Stuff like that.
They need to get you on the production, don't they? That's what they need.
That's exactly.
I need you to be heading this production.
I couldn't do worse.
MLR Rugby, get hold of Matt.
Thank you, Mike.
Hold of Matt. Take him. And we'll go to 2 Cents Rugby.
Yeah, before you go to 2 Cents Rugby, what caught your eye?
Sometimes it's hard being a visionist, being able to see the future. But I realized that last week my sweet prediction was simply just a week early.
I noticed that too.
You know, bam. Boom. Because South Africa came through. It's okay. We just were catching it a little bit on the early side, and they fulfilled it. I was gonna cuss them out in a moment for trying to make me look bad, but I realized I realized they were just trying to maybe set the stage a little bit better. So, hey, man, shout out to them for fulfilling what they were supposed to do on the end of this tour.
Get the broom out. It's called a clean sweep. A clean sweep.
Bam!
I thought John was going to have a
Bam!
conniption there. He was ready to explode.
Conniption? How old is that term? There is not one person that's.
All right, he's muted. Mike, what did you make of Jake White, the head coach of the Bulls, pulling his number 7 off the pitch late in the game to test how his team would play shorthanded?
Were they up by a lot of points?
Yeah, but, it's still a professional rugby game. It's not a scrimmage. Is that insulting to the other team?
It is. Well, maybe, or he's actually just trying to be South African witty, and the bloke was carrying something. He just wanted to get him off. I mean, God knows, it doesn't make sense. Was he all out of substitutions as well, or did he have another sub?
He had another sub.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm on board with that. Then I think that's a little bit disrespectful. Who were they playing?
I forget, Mike.
Way to go, Matt. Great research. I mean, great research.
You had to.
Matt is so
you
upset
had
about
to keep
this. He has
asking
no
questions.
idea who they were playing.
He's muted to say he's got his second yellow card in 2 minutes. That's going to be a red.
I mean, what's that say about the bloke he didn't put on?
Yeah,
Jesus
there's
Christ.
that side of it too, right?
Holy moly, yeah, that's not great. Yeah, that's
No, you know what? We're going to go shorthanded. You sit back down, Layfield. All right, I think we're ready to move on to our player of the week. And the nominees are Afeli Fassi, the back three player for the Sharks. He ain't just a high-scoring back three player. He shifted to fly half in the second half and nailed 3 important kicks in the 12-3 brawl with the Scarlets. Duncan Matthews, number 15 of Seattle, scored the try of the week, a 50-meter scamper refusing to be tackled, and was Seattle's counter-puncher offensively the entire match. And Eisen Esterhuizen, the number 5 of the Lions, he came off the bench, actually, when Ruin Venter went down and led all tacklers with 20 without missing any of them. And he was a great option in the lineout. Mike, who's your player of the week?
Slim pickings here this week. Slim pickings. I'm going to give it to the man who did the job. 50-yard scamper, Duncan Matthews, match winner. Seattle won the game. He scores the winner. He's the kid.
John.
Give me Fosse. Terrific player. I've watched. He and those guys. The backs that they have there on that team are just freaking awesome, and he's been fantastic all season.
Gift.
To not tie this up, just so that you understand what this means, I'm going Izan Etzer-Buzen because a tight game versus the Ospreys, getting the win on a close game. Them tackles mean something. Also, shout out Forward Love. All right, Forward Love.
I'm going with Mike. I'm going with Duncan Matthews. Try that maybe saved Seattle's season. More on that.
You're going
later.
with Seattle? Shockers. No way.
Well,
Get
that's
outta
a
here.
shocker.
Let's get to Gift's favorite segment.
Grown-ass man.
And the nominees are Dan and Jean-Luc Duprea, the brothers up front. To quote Mike, double trouble in a full-bloodied game for Sale against Bristol. Couple of lumps of iron, and they are. O.J. Noah, the number 8 of Seattle, ferocious on defense, and scored the winning try versus San Diego with just seconds left, keeping Seattle in the hunt with a second improbable win in a row. And Evan Etzebeth, the number 4 for the Sharks. What does a grown-ass man do after he's carried off the pitch? He comes back the next week and has a monster performance. He menaced the Scarlet halfbacks, was a force in the lineouts, scrums, and a terror on defense. Mike, who's your grown-ass man of the week?
Well, I've got to just question, if Etzebeth is a grown-ass man, what's he doing being carried off a pitch in the first place?
That is a great point.
Good point. Good point.
That
Oh,
is
my.
exactly what I was thinking.
3-time Olympic sevens coach. That's why, that thinking, that's what got him there.
Who's the moron that put him up for grown ass man?
But,
That's what I want to know.
Mike
but
did.
saying that, he is a grown-ass man in his own right, and I would never underestimate Albert.
Wait, hold on,
grown-ass man
Mike.
he is.
John, what was your question again?
Who put him up for grown ass man?
Who's the moron that put him up for a grown-ass man?
If it's Coach Mike, I agree with him.
That was Mike Friday.
You're a dumbass.
But I am going for double trouble. They were a proper couple of lumps of iron. They were absolutely causing havoc both sides of the ball. So the Dupree brothers,
John.
If you were twins, Matt, you'd be double trouble. Put your heads together, you'd look like an ass.
It's really hurtful. That's just not.
So I'm going double trouble just because if you had you with somebody else, you look like an ugly cottage cheese ass.
Gift.
Yeah, look, man, I'm gonna go with the consensus so far. Consensus means the majority
you
of
know
the
what?
people that
You
are
know what?
going
You
with this.
can-
So
You know what you can do?
definition.
You know what you can do?
He went to Buffalo primary.
Yo, let the brothers go do those work. That's something to be said, and being able to get results from it as well.
So it's 3-0 in favor of the brothers.
Could tie this up.
I might have to tie this up. I'm going to tie this up because I have a weighted pick. But I'm going with OJ Noah. How can two guys be one grown-ass man?
They did the work of 3 men.
Bam.
Boom.
Bam. That's math. That is math.
There
right
we go,
there.
Mike.
Bam.
There we go. 3-time Olympic coach.
Bam.
Dan and Jean-Luc Dupree.
Is this week's grown-ass man.
And on that note, we're going to take a commercial, and we'll be back with George and then you guys for our picks after this.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And now for your Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network. Special things happen when Seattle and San Diego get together, and this reunion was no different. Duncan Matthews dazzled by taking a ball 52 meters in the 52nd minute, ignoring heavy traffic and would-be tacklers for a spectacular try in what would ultimately be a thrilling Seawolves victory. And that is your Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
And we're back, and we are welcoming back the birthday boy, Mr. George Hook, calling in from Dublin. George, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. You're very kind. We don't really celebrate them after 90, so I don't celebrate them anymore.
So you had an eventful day, though, on your birthday. Tell us about that.
Well, I went to my cardiologist who said it's still beating. I was delighted to hear. Then I went to the laundry. Then I watched an old Fred Astaire movie with Judy Garland, Easter Parade. All of this accompanied by numerous gin and tonics. So I'm not sure if we will be able to complete this show. If I sort of fall off the chair, you'll know why.
And you didn't go to the cardiologist after you had the gin and tonics. You went before.
No.
All right, let's get to our recurring segment.
Headlines with Hook.
First headline, Joe Schmidt in a British and Irish Lions kerfuffle of sorts. What's going on there, George?
Well, do you mind if I go back a bit?
Go right ahead.
1888.
That's a little too far.
Yeah, the first ever Lions tour. And it took them about a year and a bit by the time they went down there by boat and played games and everything. But anyway, the Lions have continued. It's a magnificent event. 4 countries who previously are trying to beat the you-know-what out of each other come together. The kit represents the countries. You know, the red of Wales jersey, the white of England shorts, the blue and green socks of Scotland and Ireland. This is pretty special, all right? Now, the one thing they knew in all those years over the centuries is that Australia were no good and weren't worth a tour. So they went down there, they played a couple of matches in Australia, which were a bit of a joke, and then they went to New Zealand for the real rugby. So then television and sponsors got involved and said, why don't we have a tour to Australia? Then my least favourite coach in the world, he is worse even than Gatland, Joe Schmidt. Schmidt is now in charge of Australia. So what's he say? He says in the upcoming games, in other words, against Queensland, New South Wales, etc., we are not going to have any of the Australian squad playing it. Ergo, the Lions are going to play inferior teams. They're inferior already. Now they're decimated in their best players. Whose fault is this? The Lions, of course. One, they should have told the Australians, we're only going to come if you put real teams against us. Two, Australia, they are in a ferocious competition with Australian rules and rugby league. I just seriously think they're going to get a crowd for second-rate provincial fixtures against the Lions. It is, as a famous Irish patriot once said, a load of horse manure.
That's a pretty good summation. I can't agree with you more. Let's switch gears. Champions Cup, that's your headline.
Who do I care wins between Northampton and Bordeaux? We've got some hurling going on over here, if you know what hurling is, our national sport. But let me just take it back, all right? Let me bask in memory here. 1999, the dastardly English yet again attempt to screw us and refuse to play in the European Cup. To be fair, it's a slightly diminished competition. But incredibly, Ulster beat Toulouse twice in the pool and in the quarter-final. They then go into the semi-final and they beat Stade Francais. You have no idea what this is like in Ravenhill in Belfast because the home games, it's just unbelievable. And the final, miracle of miracles, is in the Lansdowne Road Stadium, which I refuse to call the Aviva, against Colomiers. Now, don't ask me who Colomiers are. They're now in the second division of French rugby, but they were hotshots at that time, right? A little bit of history here. Ireland is divided, as you know, by the dastardly British. We're partitioned. Up there, the Ulster Protestants. Down here, the Scottish nationalists. There are actually people in 1999 who have never crossed the border, lest they be affected by nationalist and Catholic tendencies,
Yes.
right? But then they have to cross the border for the match. The Aviva is 95% packed with Irishmen, mostly from Ulster. It's the most extraordinary experience I have ever had in rugby, and I've had a few. I can't describe it, really. Imagine all these Ulster people coming down to Dublin. They've never been before, you know? And they're there, and Ulster win. Oh, what a day. So then, the following year, 2000, Munster get to the final against, believe it or not, who? Northampton Saints. This time in Twickenham. And as has happened a number of times with those Northampton guys, they beat Munster up front. And O'Gara, the great Ronan O'Gara, has a kick to win the match in the last minute. And he misses it, and Munster lose 9 points to 8. So Munster men like me, devoted Cork men like me, go home and pray for success in the future. And our prayers are finally answered in 2006 when Munster make the final against Biarritz in Cardiff. So we're all over in Cardiff, right? Now, Cardiff's a great city because it's quite small, really. So when it's invaded by about 30 or 40,000 Munster people, you know, you can see them all in the streets and the pubs, and it's a phenomenal atmosphere. Munster lead at half-time, but it's pretty tight. Biarritz are a good team. And then the great Tara O'Sullivan, sadly no longer with us, Irish soprano, sings "Stand Up and Fight," right? They must have heard it in the dressing room. We're all ecstatic. The boys in red come back out. Stringer scores a blindside try off a scrum. Munster win the Heineken Cup, and we all get drunk. They're my three favourite Heineken Cup moments.
That's a pretty good string on the birthday celebrating with us. And that is this week's
Headlines with Hook.
Thank You, George Hook.
Thanks so much.
You need your clear athletes? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back. Friday Night Lights at Principality Stadium in Cardiff. We have the Challenge Cup. Lyon versus Bath. Bath, the favorites by 11.5. Mike, who do you like?
I think Bath win it, but I don't think they win it by 11.5. So give me Lyon.
John.
I agree with the legendary coach Mike Friday. I'm going with Bath. You notice Ireland ain't in any championship.
If
Lyon just lost last week against Stade Francais. I look for them to continue that trend and lose to Bath.
to Bath.
To Bath.
Oh,
Because 11.5 is too much, and I think Lyon will actually keep this relatively close.
I think Bath are going to treat it as a home game and beat the
Mike
Frenchies
already
silly.
confirmed that Bath is the correct usage, and it would be more than a.
Gift's been muted.
We're not from the north. We're not from the north, Giff. It's not about. Not about.
I'm laying the 11.5. Finn Russell and co are going to run the Frenchies out of the park. Saturday afternoon, the big one. Northampton Saints versus Bordeaux. Bordeaux coming into Principality Stadium as the favorites by 6.5. Mike, who do you like?
Man, this is going to be an epic encounter. I just think Northampton Saints have got a few boys coming back.
Wink,
I
wink.
think it's going to be tight, but I think Northampton are going to win this. So I'm going Northampton.
So, Mike, would you think 3 weeks ago that both these teams healthy that Northampton would win this match?
3 weeks ago, they didn't have some players coming back. And 3 weeks ago, Penno was fit. And, you know, what Northampton did against Leinster should not be underestimated. I think Penno not being there, and I think what we're hearing about who's coming back for Northampton in this game, considering the collateral damage they took last weekend, I think they're going to be high on adrenaline, and they don't care. So I'm going Northampton to do a job.
John.
I'm going with the boys from Northampton. They looked incredible. And then kudos to them last week. Play that tough game against Series when they could have rested players and got ready for the championship. Kudos to those guys, man. That's a bunch of warriors. That's a warrior mindset. I love it. Bordeaux is awesome, by the way. What a freaking team. This is going to be an incredible game. I cannot wait to watch.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A WWE Hall of Famer legend kissing the ass of two teams. That's what that was right there.
They're two great teams.
No.
Two excellent teams. Also talk about the legendary coach Mike Friday. The only one I talk bad about is you, Matt.
Gift.
Last year, Northampton won the championship and the Premiership. This year, they're going for Europe. Next year, World Club Championships. I don't know if that actually starts next year, but we're going to say it does for the sake of synchronicity. Look for Northampton to be able to take this one. I do think Bordeaux follies at the last second on this one because the French will always folly whenever they're on the road.
Well, I'm going to make it unanimous. I'm going to take the Saints. And I think Bordeaux might win this one, but I think it's going to be like a 3-point match. And I want to support Mike Friday. Let's move on to this side of the pond. MLR. Seattle's resurgent, beating good teams on basically the last play in a row from last week. And Miami not really stunning New England's B team. Yeah.
You said the last play in a row, so that's one plays in a row?
2 games. They won basically on the last play in a row. 2 games in a row.
You said just last play in a row.
Oh, you know what? He's muted. Okay. Never going to get through this show. Mike, who do you like in the MLR?
I'm not going for New England because of what they did last week. Bang out of order. I'm going LA to win and cover against Miami.
Gift.
2 losses in a row in a 4-day period with Miami and DC. You know those are anomalies whenever NOLA loses to DC. That just doesn't happen. So look for them to be able to bounce back against Utah at home, cover the spread, get the win on this. Get back on the track.
The train track, because they're going to get run over. But, John, who do you like?
The train track because they're about to go blow through this.
Bam!
Boom!
John.
DC going up to their rivals, the New England Free Jacks. They have matched up with them for the last several years. Even when New England's winning the championship, DC is the one team that plays them tough, has a chance of beating them every time they play them. It's a great rivalry. Too many points, 11 points. Give me DC.
DC plays tough when they go to New England.
I just said that.
DC,
I literally just said that.
John, DC plays tough when they go up to New England. I'm going to go with Chicago, absolutely annihilating Carolina, covering that 12 points with no problem. Let's take a break. We'll come back with Super Rugby and our picks of the week and get out of here after this. From New York City comes America's longest-running and most popular rugby show. The biggest names in Major League Rugby, MLR highlights, and big match previews. Rugby Wrap-Up presents MLR Weekly, made in New York City. Hey, U.S. fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we are back. And guys, let's go to Super Rugby down under. John, who do you like?
I don't even know the team's names hardly. I was told to say Hurricanes. So Hurricanes.
Gift.
Look for Moana Pacifica to bounce back. Artie Savea taking on the Chiefs. They're going to cover. 14.5 points is a lot. Not normally, but I think they bounce back.
Didn't Moana Pacifica beat the Blues?
They did. They
why
did.
Why are they bouncing back this week?
Well, because it's gifts. It's a giftism.
Oh, my God.
They had a f***ing monumental win against the Blues. They're going to bounce back this week.
They're going to.
Sure, they beat the Blues. At the Blues.
He doesn't count the Blues as a real team.
I mean, I'll do that again because it's like Artie's got named player of the year for tearing them apart, and you're talking about him bouncing back. I was like, what's he bouncing back to do?
They're going to bounce back from that great victory.
But exactly, you know,
whatever's on his ceiling.
Higher. They're bouncing to leap higher.
he's reading whatever's on his ceiling. Mike, what do you expect?
You know, this is Artie Severe probably, but I'm going to Crusaders. I think they'll do a job on the Highlanders. 14.5 is big, but Crusaders are home.
And I'm going to go with the Western Force, -2.5 versus the Waratahs. And that leads us to our final segment, John's favorite segment, Picks of the Week. Johnny, who do you like?
Well, Matty, you one half of an ass. I got the under in the game with DC and the Free Jacks. I think it's going to be a defensive battle.
Awful pick. It's going to be a track meet.
You have no idea.
Yeah,
no idea whatsoever.
A Matstradamus.
You're matched a dumbass.
Gift.
LA, Miami, that two mid teams, but look for that to be a combined score over 55. This one's just going to be points of a bunch of teams that nobody actually cares about.
Mike.
I think Saturday, Northampton, Bordeaux, both teams come out and are going to attack, and they're going to play fast. And I think it's going to be, I'm going to go the overs on that game.
I'm going to go with the over on the Carolina versus Chicago match. I think that's
to bounce back.
I didn't say bounce back. Gift did, you asshole.
I'm going to bounce back against Anthem, who've changed their name to Carolina because Anthem was working out for them.
Yeah, the Anthem looking to continue their lack of success. And on that note, we're out of time. Thanks to John, Bradshaw, Layfield, the WWE Hall of Famer, turned rugby advocate, King Gift Egbelu, the inventor of words and phrases and imaginary scenarios with teams, Mike Friday, the three-time Olympic sevens coach, George Hook, the birthday boy and Irish legend, and thank you for tuning in. Please check out MLR Weekly. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, join our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross blood donor team.